So you are a 6, 7 or 8-figure entrepreneur in the online space and you're looking for ways in which you can further improve your workflow, your performance, your flow states and your output within any given work day. Now you've come across the concepts of intermittent fasting and incorporating only eating one meal per day into your day-to-day routines and schedules, but you're not necessarily sure how to actually incorporate that practice into your own individual day, what variables to be looking for, which things to be aware of, and which things you should be further tackling in terms of any difficulties associated with that process. That's exactly what I'm going to be taking you guys through in terms of today's video. So I'm going to be talking you guys through why you should only be eating one meal per day, why individuals and high performers or peak performers like Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, only eats one meal per day, and how you guys can incorporate that practice into your day-to-day life to further heighten your workflow, your performance, your flow states, and as a result of that, further scale your business day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month. I'm also going to be showcasing and highlighting some of the work I've done with my clients in terms of incorporating intermittent fasting as a practice into their day-to-day routines. And as a result of that, they've seen tremendous success when it comes to reaching that total flow state, reaching 90% of performance on a day-to-day basis. And as a result of that, having further business success as well. So let's dive straight into it. Okay, so why does a high-performing individual like Jack Dorsey only eat one meal per day? Very simple reasons here. It provides a huge amounts of ease when it comes to your day-to-day routines. You don't have to think about cooking frequently nor eating frequently. It's very simple. It provides an opportunity to optimize your mental performance and brain cognition, which you will experience if you incorporate fasting if you haven't done already. It saves you an awful lot of time. Think about how many hours per day you spend cooking food, preparing food, meal prepping, and then actually eating. And then obviously the response it has in terms of your workflow and capacity for performance, because you guys are sat there with that kind of brain slump where you've had a huge amounts of carbohydrates for breakfast, lunch or dinner. You're sat at your desk and you're now feeling very sluggish, and that's because you've had those frequent food sources. Whereas if you incorporate fasting, that's not an issue you guys have to think about. It's going to save you a lot of time, as I said. It's incredibly enjoyable and effortless, and it develops willpower more so. Obviously, eating frequently or having that constant buffet of food is something that we kind of like in today's society. By not adhering to that system or adhering to that practice, we're developing our willpower further. So in terms of the physical response to fasting, it's going to activate stress response pathways that boost mitochondrial performance. So essentially how you feel in terms of your energy day to day, in simple terms. Autophagy and DNA repair in your cells. Autophagy is essentially the process of cleaning waste products from your body to ensure that your body is kind of the best state it can possibly be in. So in terms of fasting, it's going to be a huge benefit of that as well. And triggers beneficial metabolic changes, meaning that your body composition is going to further improve. As a result of that, in terms of how you feel, in terms of your energy, your focus, your output day to day, it's going to improve tenfold as well. So intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting, in simple terms, is not eating for a period of 16 to 48 hours or longer. Depends. I personally fasted for 4 days at a time in previous months and weeks. It can profoundly impact your brain, and hugely powerful tool for modulating your body's performance. So if you guys, you might have experienced this already, where you guys, let's say, for example, eat a breakfast at 8 in the morning, you guys sit down for your desk to work, you're very motivated, or you feel very motivated, then half an hour later, you kind of reach that wall where you feel like you're going to crash. You hit that slump. You're so incredibly fatigued mentally and physically that you simply cannot work at the capacity you'd like to do so. Or you may experience that after eating lunch or dinner, for example, when going out with friends, whatever it may be. These are all variables which are going to have a massively negative impact on your workflow and capacity to then further improve your business and further scale. So let's remove that by incorporating a practice like intermittent fasting. And I'm actually going to stop this recording here and highlight a clip of the video I've recorded with one of my clients, Oriel, who is in the e-commerce space generating multi-7 figures. We're going to talk about the benefits of incorporating intermittent fasting and the benefits that he saw from incorporating that practice when he first started working with me now, probably about 7 or 8 months ago. And I get the assessment back in regards to which food sources cause inflammation for Oriel and which food sources he can consume without having a sense of brain fog, feeling fatigued, feeling sluggish from consuming food, because that's the last thing we want. And for our clients, what we want to achieve as the end goal is a state of flow. Exactly. So we're looking to remove any variable which prevents that from happening. Most of you guys would have this experience before, where you eat a food source or you eat lunch and then you feel sluggish, you feel like your body's inflamed, you kind of have that brain fog feeling. And that's what Oriel experiences a lot when you consume certain food sources, because it's causing inflammation, which is very obvious from this metric here, okay? So we get this testing kit done, remove any food source which causes inflammation. Oriel already incorporates our intermittent fasting protocol, which actually mitigates inflammation anyway, which is great. But from there, we need to further improve this.
Yeah,
the dude said it himself.
Your mind, whenever you skip the breakfast, no breakfast, it sounds hard, but it is not. Your mind becomes instantly more sharper. It's amazing. I wasn't expecting that, but man,
yeah,
absolutely. It's life-changing.
Absolutely, and that's another variable we focus on in terms of our service delivery is nutrition systems and intermittent fasting. So all of our clients fast roughly 16 hours per day. And the reason as to why this is to mitigate blood sugar inconsistency. So states of highs, lows, where you're consuming food, it spikes, you then drop, and then your work block's fucked, or ruined rather, I should say, on YouTube, and then it spikes again, and then it drops again. So that's the last thing we want for our clients, and intermittent fasting really prevents that from happening. And obviously Oriel breaks his fast with the food sources. We advise him to do so as well.
Oh yeah.
So what I want to show you guys as well whilst Oriel is here is... Okay, so that was a clip of one of my clients, Oriel, talking about the benefits that he's personally experienced from incorporating intermittent fasting as a practice and certain nutrition systems I incorporate with all of my clients. Let's carry on with today's video. So the OMAD intermittent fasting approach aims for a 23-hour fasting window and a 1-hour eating window, or a fasting ratio. If you're looking to burn fat, improve mental resilience, and simplify the time you spend on food, or minimize the time you spend on food, eating one meal a day could be the key to taking you to the next level in terms of your performance. It certainly has been for myself, and it certainly is the case for the clients that I work with, as I said, doing multi-6, 7 or 8 figures. How does intermittent fasting, or only eating one meal per day, work? I hope you guys enjoy the graphics as well here. It's a little bit of fun for myself. How does it work? Eat all of your calories in just one meal each day. This is the process of incorporating only eating one meal per day, of course. You typically fast for 23 or so hours. You reap the health benefits of fasting whilst also simplifying your work schedule in terms of obviously you're not having to have that break for eating, which could probably last for, let's say, like 3 hours per day. If you're incorporating breakfast, lunch and dinner and snacks frequently, you're probably taking away at least 3 hours of your work day just spending time eating, which is pretty ridiculous. So you normally break your fast between the periods of 4 to 7 p.m. is an ideal time if you are incorporating only one meal per day. And this gives you fuel when you need it, time to eat in a social setting, and enough time to digest food prior to sleep start time as well, which is really important if you guys are tracking your sleep metrics with a metric tool like Aura, for example. You'll notice that your heart rate spikes or is much higher than normal if you guys are eating too close to bed. So if you guys are incorporating only eating one meal per day, like someone like Jack Dorsey is doing so, typically you want to break your fast between 4 to 7 p.m. Okay. How to start only eating one meal per day. This can be pretty extreme as an intermittent fasting schedule for someone who is fairly new to this or fairly new to the concept of intermittent fasting. So I wouldn't necessarily say dive straight in at this deep end. I definitely break in at a little bit more of an easy stage, for example, and work with the lowest hanging fruits in terms of reaping the benefits of incorporating, let's say, like a 16-hour fasting window, as opposed to going to the full extreme of 23 hours. But that's if you guys are totally new to the process of fasting. If you guys are already fasting in your day-to-day routines and schedules, of course, then going straight through to 23 hours per day fasting is something which I'd actively encourage. Fasting for 23 hours does take a lot of effort and creates a situation that can stress you out and compromise your ability to work if you guys aren't educated on the topic matter properly. Hence why I'm producing this video and I take my clients through that process step by step in a very one-on-one format. The objective with one meal a day isn't to make you feel like you're punishing your body or suffering through a challenge. The objective is very simply, when it comes to working with entrepreneurs or you guys in particular that are watching this video, is to heighten and further optimize your workflow output and capacity to then scale your business, okay? We're not necessarily associating this with a biohacking process or looking at it from a process of being the best health practitioner or healthy individual out there possible. Okay, if you guys are entrepreneurs wanting to scale your business further, the reason as to why you incorporate intermittent fasting into your day-to-day routines and work schedules is to simply heighten and further optimize your workflow and capacity to further scale in terms of your output, flow states, etc. throughout that any given day, and reach that 90% of performance on a daily basis. And obviously then as a result of that, reap the health benefits associated with it, like obviously the improved autophagy response as well, as an example. So if you want to start the 23-hour fasting window and only eat one meal per day for over an hour window, start slow. Introduce intermittent fasting every other day with small snacks after workouts. Okay, so if you guys are new to this, introduce intermittent fasting every other day, then adhere to your normal meal routine or meal schedule as such on every other day as well, and then have small snacks after your workouts. Start by fasting in small and shorter durations. So get comfortable with fasting for 16 to 20 hours at a time, as already highlighted there in the video recorded with Oriel as well, and slowly build up to fasting for 23 hours per day. You can also try one 23-hour fasting window and then add more only one meal per day days into your weekly routine as time builds up. So I definitely start with one intermittent fasting day like this per week, and then from there potentially build up to 2 in a row, 3 in a row, 4 in a row, etc. over a course of multiple weeks. As with any approach to fasting, it's important to see how your body responds and find what works for you as well. So when it comes to fasting, definitely test. If you're an individual with a very high metabolism, or you've got certain hormonal imbalances, like for example, low testosterone, in terms of incorporating fasting, it might not be for you. Okay, you wouldn't necessarily benefit from the responses to fasting. You guys should definitely test this practice first prior to saying like you're going to stick to it day to day, week to week, month to month. This is something that you should test, and you should see if in terms of response you actually benefit from it. Okay, super simple. However, I would say that 70% of individuals I work with do have receive a massive response or benefit from this practice. I'd say that there's only about 30% of the clients that I work with that intermittent fasting shouldn't suit. Okay, that's based off hormonal profiles as well, and obviously based off where their metabolism is at or their thyroid function is at. If they've got a very fast thyroid and very fast metabolism, they'll often experience a detriment by incorporating fasting in terms of their output, their energy, their flow state, etc. Because they kind of reach that sluggish point where their body's processing food too fast. So that's for another video. But again, guys, if you are incorporating intermittent fasting, test, respond, and find what works for you. Okay? Benefits of 1 meal a day fasting. Long periods of fasting benefit your body by gently stressing your cells, making them more resilient. It's a process called hormesis, which uses stress to make you stronger. So you can compare this process, or the process of hormesis, to the benefits of your body receives from when weight training or doing calisthenic work, or when doing cardiovascular work, for example. If the stress were too large, it would become negative to the body. A small amount of stress allows the body to learn and adapt. Okay, so incorporating a practice like this should be something which stresses your body to a fair degree, but nothing which is too excessive. Similar to how, for example, you wouldn't go to the gym 7 days per week and train for 4 hours per day. You simply wouldn't benefit from doing so. Your body wouldn't recover. There'd be too much stress on the body. Okay, so apply that thought process to fasting as well, especially if you guys are starting out with this. As I said, start with a 16-hour fasting window rather than going straight through to only eating 1 meal per day window. Okay. Benefits of 1 meal a day fasting again. Fights the effects of aging by activating autophagy, which essentially is the body's process of wiping out shit from the body and replacing it with better sources, pretty much. Your body's cleanup mode for damaged cells, toxins, and waste, as I highlighted there. Boosts your metabolism because it resets your tolerance to hunger and helps you burn fat for longer. Improves health and protects against disease, and simplifies meal prep. The last thing you guys want to do if you're running a hugely successful business, which is obviously fairly stressful, is be stuck in the kitchen for 2-3 hours per day thinking about how frequently you're going to be eating if you're incorporating like 6 meals per day or something ridiculous, which is fairly normal, which is absolutely obscene. And obviously then you don't want to be spending too much time prepping meals either. You simply want to be eating as least frequently as possible, as a result of that then benefiting when it comes to actually being able to spend more time on your work tasks as well. When you eat, you'll eat less. This is a double-edged sword, however, because prolonged calorie restriction isn't necessarily something which is beneficial. Okay, it should be something which you cycle on from and cycle on from as well. Sorry, excuse me. You can make it easier by limiting the amount of carbohydrates in your diet. When you eat a lot of carbohydrates, your body stockpiles glucose as glycogen. This means it'll take a lot longer for your body to shift into ketosis or fat burning mode when you are fasting. Now, if you guys experience a state of ketosis, you'll also notice that when it comes to regulating your blood sugars, that's not a difficulty. You guys will maintain energy throughout the day. It's very stable like this, as opposed to it spiking really high when you eat food and then crashing really low when you are going for extended periods of time without food. Okay, so ketosis is something which we should look to work towards potentially as well. Okay, or a state of ketosis or high tone ketone production. So you basically reap the benefits of ketosis by fasting for long periods of time. Okay, your body produces ketones when you are in ketosis, and ketones can help curb hunger cravings by suppressing your hunger hormones. Okay, so if you go for a period of, let's say, 20 hours fasting, your body will then naturally start to produce blood ketones. As a result of that, you'll experience what's like a kind of like a battery when it comes to your energy, and it'll feel very, very stable throughout, and you won't experience hunger as well. It'll be suppressed. Only eating 1 meal a day tips and tricks, and knowing when to stop. This is hugely important, so really do pay attention to this part of the video, please, guys. Fasting for 23 hours per day is not easy, and it is something which you should work towards, as opposed to diving straight in at the deep end. Okay, so don't read an article produced by someone like Jack Dorsey or, for example, a podcast, and think you should dive in straight to that extreme. No, absolutely not. Okay, getting all your nutrition in one meal is even more challenging, and of course your body can give you signals that it's time to quit. Here are some tips to adjust to only eating 1 meal per day and red flags you guys want to watch out for if you guys are incorporating this practice. Okay, make your 1 meal per day count. Make sure your meals are balanced, diverse, and cover a full range of macronutrients and micronutrients as well. Filling up too fast on one food group means missing out on the other nutrients that you need. Okay, so I'm an individual that incorporates only eating 1 meal per day, as do all of my clients, the majority of my clients. And this is something that we really strain and make sure that they have in place a system in terms of making sure they get every nutrient they need into their diets as well. Obviously, we carry out further medical testing as well, like gut health testing kits, for example, and make sure that the food sources they are consuming are very much beneficial to them and optimized to their bodies. Okay. Fudge the timeline, or that's a very PC way of saying fuck the timeline. Only eating 1 meal per day also doesn't need to be a strict 23-hour fasting window and a 1-hour eating window. If eating one meal, or like a massive meal, let's say for example of 2,500 calories or something substantial like 3,000, for example, like myself, is too much or too difficult to do in a 1-hour window. Okay. If it's more comfortable for you to spread your large meal out over more than 1 hour, try it, okay? For example, when I first started this practice, I personally broke my fast at 4 and ended at 7. There's a 3-hour eating window. I wouldn't be eating throughout that entire 3 hours, of course not. What I'd be doing is very small tasks in terms of like maintenance tasks on the business, or I'd be going out for dinner with friends, for example, or like with my girlfriend, for example, and I'd be eating throughout that window, okay? In order to ensure that I get enough calories in that 3-hour window, but it wasn't too difficult for my body to process. And obviously, as a result, that was a little bit more comfortable for myself at first. You can then gradually work towards having that, obviously your full consumption of calories in that 1-hour window progressively, okay? If your body's screaming for food at hour 22 with major hangries after a big workout, which as a male, you probably would experience at some point, or a female as well, of course. I definitely know that I have, and I definitely know that my female clients have done so as well. Go ahead and eat. Super simple, okay? This should be something which benefits you when it comes to optimizing your workflow, output, and productivity, not something that detracts. And that's where people go hugely wrong when it comes to optimizing their peak performance states or their health and their output as an entrepreneur in business. You guys must make sure that practices you're incorporating are adding to and further improving your performance rather than detracting from them, okay? Work out what works for you by working with an individual like myself or going through certain courses, obviously like a course that I'm developing right now, for example. Work with an individual that teaches you how to test and refine those practices and gets you to 90% of your performance and your peak flow states, rather than having one day where you're at 100% performance and 40% the next day because you've added in too many variables, you're testing too much, you don't know what you're doing, okay? Listen to your body. Even with balanced nutrients, some bodies simply don't agree with extreme 23-hour fasting, as I highlighted earlier, like 30% of the clients that I work with, for example. And that is totally okay. If you have a fast metabolism, frequently deal with mental stress, or enjoy intense workouts like you're an athlete, for example, don't force a schedule without listening to your body's cues. If your body is stressed from fasting, it releases extra adrenaline and cortisol, which is something which is fairly chronic or fairly high for entrepreneurs in this space anyway. Having putting yourselves through fairly stressful situations, you don't want to exacerbate this further. So if you experience any detriment from incorporating fasting, remove that practice, okay? If you have restless sleep or wake up unintentionally early, or if you're feeling sluggish, weak, or constantly tired, your body's telling you that it needs more energy more often, so more frequent food sources. Transition out mindfully as well. You guys can obviously read this. I don't need to refer to it by reading it out for word. So in short, guys, there are huge amounts of benefits of incorporating intermittent fasting or only eating 1 meal per day when it comes to optimizing your workflow, output, your peak performance states, and your flow states. Okay, so going throughout that workday, we have 8 hours of very solid and very deep work, as opposed to having 4 hours of very solid and very deep work because you're eating frequently, you're experiencing brain fog, you're feeling very sluggish after you're eating. Again, all of those things are compromising your ability to work and reach that further success state with your business as well. Okay, so incorporating intermittent fasting is something which presents huge benefits, hence why individuals like Jack Dorsey only eat 1 meal per day. Okay, guys, so I hope this video has been very helpful for you guys. Comment below any questions that you guys have. Obviously, leave this video a thumbs up if possible and put on the notification bell for the videos I'm producing. I'm producing 3 videos per week. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions, please do let me know, and I shall see you in the next one.